Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
All right, good evening, everyone. We can call this meeting to order. It's the October 2nd meeting of the Fitchburg Parks Commission. It is 6 o'clock on the dot. First order of business will be an approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from September?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Second from Sam?
I'll second. Oh.
Nope, I think Sam beat you to it. Any discussion? We have no public comments, so all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries unanimously. Agenda item number 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. We do have a public appearance. Patrick Cheney wishing to speak. Come on up, Patrick.
There was a comment made at the last meeting after my turn to speak was over, and so I'm going to speak my objection to that now. The comment was that the McGaw tennis / pickleball / archery courts in McGaw Park on the east side were going to be removed, and I oppose that. The theme for McGaw Park is a sports park. That's per Wade Thompson, if you remember, or some of you may know of that, which is that all the active sports plus the passive sports of hiking trails are here in McGaw, except for tennis, since the court was closed for tennis or pickleball. So my statement is either fix these courts or don't touch them. Do not remove them. They're still used for archery currently, so leave them for future funding to fix them. A few years ago, under a different mayor, there was a new plan for tennis and pickleball altogether, that according to a conversation I had with Scott Endel, all the tennis was going to be at McKee, all the pickleball was going to be at McGaw. And that's already reversed by the council, who has said they want to fund local courts in the various neighborhood and area parks. And we're looking currently at $300,000 for redoing the Chicory Meadow courts to add pickleball. And there's a proposed $300,000 on the agenda tonight for Swan Creek to be decided of whether it remains tennis, dual stripe for pickleball, or separate dedicated pickleball. That's to be discussed later. But in McGaw Park, don't remove the McGaw courts because it's the sports theme park. I did have some conversations with the company employees who were building the pickleball courts in McGaw, and these are unconfirmed, non-salesmen, but knowledgeable people of the same company, and they gave an estimate of it could be just $2,000 or $3,000 to redo the surface of the McGaw tennis / pickleball / archery courts. That is 1/100th of the cost of a total rebuild as being done in Chicory Meadow and possibly Swan Creek of $300,000. So either fix them or leave them alone. They're still used for archery, and it's the only place where archery is used.
Thank you, Patrick. Do we have any other public appearances for non-agenda items? All right, not seeing any. We can move on to item number 4, which is our discussion and action items. Item 4A is Resolution R-17125, approving the change order number 2 for the McGaw Pickleball Courts to allow for court lighting. We do have a handful of citizen registrations. We have, one registered in opposition, requesting questions answered, and we have several in support. So I will go in order here, starting with the first one. I have Mr. Patrick Cheney again, wishing to speak and wishing to have some questions answered. So come on up again, Patrick.
The agenda pages on there, but you can look at any of the pages to see some of these things. Since this is going ahead, this needs to be done right for the pickleball lights. The top issue, and I spoke with Katie McDonald of Parkitecture, but she said that the diagrams that you will see in the packet were not done by her, they were done by other employees of the company, and so she couldn't give me answers to these. The top issue is all of the diagrams show a single push button start-stop or on-off controls. And that absolutely, definitely, for sure must change. You can look at pictures on page 13, 14, 16, 17 of your packet, and you can see various examples of this. Now, these specs were written up over a year ago. Some of the things don't match up anymore with what is being built as the as-built courts there, but it gives some information, but it doesn't answer several questions. Are you sure you can't bring up the diagrams on the screen here that I'm looking at? Just for reference, hopefully you guys can see that. There needs to be at least 2 separate controls for the west 8 courts and the east 4 courts. Just like McKee Tennis with the north versus the south courts, it has 2 control stations. So just think of 2 people walking up at 9 p.m. and pushing one single button and all 8 lights come on for all 12 courts. That's very energy inefficient. Another question is, what is the technology of these lights going in? There's nothing given in the specs for the company that bid this out. Are they LED lights or are they metal halide lights? That is unknown. Just as an example, something more than 5 years ago, the East Baseball Field in McGaw had its lights replaced, but the advice from Corey Hurton of R.A. Smith at that time, over 5 years ago, said that LED is just not up to the brightness of metal halide, and so those were metal halide lights that replaced metal halide lights. But look around at the street lights that we have. LED has improved a lot over 5 years, and we have LED street lights that are very bright. So nothing on the original specs says what kind. The blue flashing light goes on as the lights are about to go off, but after what time? Is it an hour, just like McKee Tennis? When are all the court lights supposed to go off? Is that 10 p.m. as the park closes? Again, just like McKee Tennis and all of the baseball fields. So there's one redeeming factor on this, and I will say this is, strangely taking it from Southdale Park Dedication Funds, which is a little odd, but it says in the resolution right here that this needs to use park dedication money before it expires in 8 years and have to give it back to the developer. And I'd be in favor of blowing park dedication money on anything before you give it back to developers.
Thank you, Patrick. Just to touch on one of your items, it does look like in the fixture schedule on the plans that they are to be LED fixtures. LED, yeah, I can't say that with 100% certainty, but it looks like that's the case. But there are model numbers in there if somebody was super curious and wanted to look them up. So, all right, moving on to other citizen comments. I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anybody's name. We have Shelley Reynolds wishing to speak in support. Hello.
Hi, everyone. I was just at the ribbon cutting for the new courts today. It was a success. And all the people there obviously are very excited about the new courts. And everyone's asking about the lights. And so we keep saying that we think we're going to get them and how important they are. So I'm just going to speak about last year we gave you, I'm with MPAC, which is McGaw Pickleball Advisory Committee. It's the committee that we created about 3 years ago to help the city facilitate the courts and for us to be able to take care of them and welcome people and do all those things that we do at the courts, which is a number of things. So we're a volunteer group. We have about 10 members, and we run skills and drills. We run little small tournaments. We do all sorts of things at the courts. Teach beginners. I've taught over 100 beginners myself. So this is all free to the city, and people are so excited about it. But we could use the lights later in the evening. I mean, we could be running tournaments there, and when we do, we'll be able to go into the evening. I know that other courts in the area, there's only a couple that nobody has as many courts now as we do. We have the most, and which is fantastic. And we'll be able to run some big tournaments there and bring people from all over the place to play at the courts. And the best thing to do would be able to go into the evening to be able to play those tournaments, because it does limit us if we have to stop at dark or before dark. So let's see, I don't know what else you want to know about McGaw, except for last year when we put the numbers together, the impact group facilitates every day at the courts. I don't know if you know that, but we've done 90% of every week for the whole summer. And we're there to open up the box and give out balls and welcome people, and we keep track of how many people are coming when we're there, and that's during open play, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday mornings, and Tuesday, Thursday nights. So we're always there, and we're answering questions, we're welcoming everyone, so that the beginners still can feel like they can play with the advanced players, things like that. So last year, if you remember a report that I presented, that the total number of players that we kept track of were 9,057 players last year. Those aren't individual players, those are people that played. So as you can see, that's a lot of people that's really, really happy. And we can just make more people happy, we can bring more business to Fitchburg through tournaments and things like that. Excuse me. And so it's just a lot of reasons why we need to get lights. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could I ask a question? Your association for Fitchburg, I think that's great.
Yeah.
And thank you. I've met people who have come to your sessions and they're very happy.
Oh, good.
A question I have about, are there other local groups, for example, that would do this in Sun Prairie or the other communities?
Yeah, good question. So it seems that almost every community that has a set of courts do create their own volunteer committee. They're called different things. Even Verona's creating one now because they're getting new courts or got new courts. Sun Prairie is the one that's been doing it for years. They have a huge group, but yeah, they're all committees named differently. Oregon that are volunteers that help at their courts.
Okay, and then a follow-up also is, do you track of the people who came, where they came from?
No, only if they register for an event, like a round robin, or for the skills and drills, things like that. Then we might be able to know. I do know that 40 out of the 500 people that came, so there's also an organization called CAPA. You guys have heard of it. It's Capital Area Pickleball Association, and that was created 16 years ago by some avid pickleballers. Well, I'm also the vice president of that organization. We have about 1,500 members, and our goal is to make sure that pickleball is advanced throughout the county. It's not just individual, and it's to help everyone. So we have money in our coffers, and so whenever a community wants something, so we wanted to put out the big box out there to help store things. And we asked CAPA for the money, and they give us $500. But they don't give large sums. You can only request a grant every 2 years, and so they give us the money. So CAPA also, this year, ran 55 skills and drills, free skills and drills throughout the different communities around Madison. And so I worked with them, and we offered 10 skills and drills through CAPA. And so that was free, and that was initially first through the city of Fitchburg. So you could sign up at the city of Fitchburg, and then if we had anything left, then we'd give it to the CAPA members to fill in the spots. But generally, it's offered only to Fitchburg, and that's how we got to have some skills and drills at the courts. Otherwise, there's no way. I mean, you know, nobody else can offer that kind of thing to people. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Anything else?
I got a question.
I have a few questions as well.
Sure. That's coming.
Heidi, why don't you
sorry.
go?
Oh, right there. Yeah, sorry.
I'm on screen.
Gotcha.
So we've heard a lot about these tournaments that are supposed to be coming our way. I'm wondering when that is going to begin happening, especially if we're in competition with so many other communities that are starting to build up their pickleball offering, I guess, if you will. And the second thing is the revenue that the Pickleball Association gets from their members. How, if at all, is any of that transferred to the city in terms of, you know, being able to use the courts and helping to get a little ROI back? Thank you.
Yeah. So when it comes to CAPA, and they do also offer leagues in the evenings, sometimes in the daytime, but CAPA then pays for those courts to offer it free to the members. So there is some income. We do it throughout the summer, usually definitely 2 days, Tuesday mornings and another night. They offer these leagues, and so that does bring in some revenue. And what was your other question?
And that's in terms of, I'm sorry, that's in terms of rental fees?
Rental fees, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And the CAPA members don't pay for it. So CAPA only charges $15 a year for their members, so we don't make a ton of money, but we do have some, and we want to spread it out. And what was your other question? Oh, tournaments. You mentioned tournaments.
And when will that start happening? And how do we compete with other communities then if they're all sort of building up their pickleball offering?
That's a good question. So one of the biggest tournaments is Mad City Tournament, right? Mad City Tournament, and that's not run by CAPA. It's run by the sports something in the city of Madison. And they bring about 400 players in. And they've always had to have it at Sun Prairie because Sun Prairie has 10 courts. So we want to compete against Sun Prairie to be able to have it in Fitchburg, but we wouldn't have been able to compete if we didn't have lights. So we wouldn't be able to bring that huge tournament that brings people from all over the state and even from Illinois to play in that huge tournament. The other tournament that we offered a couple of years ago, we offered it at McGaw. That was when we had 8 courts, and it was our first time that CAPA offered a tournament. So we have a full tournament for CAPA. And this year they had it elsewhere because the other courts had lights. So we couldn't, and the extra 4 courts weren't complete. So next year we're anticipating that we're going to get that tournament too. And so that'll bring another 300 people to the tournament. I think you're muted. I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
I apologize. I had some technical issues. So what is it that makes you believe that these tournaments will in fact come to us? It sort of seems like if they build it, or if you build it, they will come. And I'm just wondering if there's been any conversations or any sort of, I don't want to use the word guarantee because I know nothing in life is a guarantee, but what sort of arrangements have been made to ensure that we do in fact get tournaments sent our way?
There's no way to know for sure. I do know that Kappa wants to bring it back to Fitchburg. I'm not on that committee this year, this 2025. I wasn't on that committee. I'm on too many other committees. So, but we had discussed it, and we actually wanted to bring it this year, but we felt that we would wait until next year. So that was the last conversation I had about that. The other tournaments are what people are saying that McGaw needs to be, that the big city tournament needs to be at McGaw this coming year. We'd also there's also been talk about, and these are never permanent or for sure, but it's a lot of talk. But they'd like to be able to have a tournament where they can provide big enough that they need to have more than just McGaw, that they would need to have a couple other courts too. So that's always considered. So if we had more people on our impact committee, or maybe some help from the city, we would be able to offer tournaments, because a day tournament is not hard to do. It's the big tournaments that are hard to do. So, yeah, it's something that's on our agenda to try and, work on for next year. Does that help?
It does, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question. It kind of ties in with a little bit with Heidi, but I guess I was trying to understand what the impact would be, since we're talking about putting lights in there, what the impact would be for regular use, so regular people who are using the court during whatever summer hours are available after, 8:30, whatever, when it gets dark in the summer.
Yeah.
And then spring or fall, what the usage is. Because I guess at the end of the day, I'm trying to understand, there's a $145,000 expenditure.
Right.
What's the benefit of that expenditure relative to the need?
Yeah.
Either during the summer for regular users or whatever who need to use the court, and then for your tournaments, which again, at this point, you don't seem to, there's a couple, but you don't know exactly how many additional people would use those courts during the time that we would have it lit.
Yeah. So one of the things to understand about pickleball is that initially, as you all probably know, it started with older folks, us older folks that wanted to. Yeah, you can. Part of you too? But what we're seeing a lot of is that now pickleball is, the average age is 35, if not younger. So what we've noticed, us old folks that have been playing for a while, have noticed is that in the evenings, you have tons of young people. If they can stay later, then they will. We see groups, they bring their friends, they come after work, or they come like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and they're ready to play, and they want to play longer. So if the courts were lit, then we'd be able to fill them longer. So that would be one reason to have them lit, is for the younger people. And teenagers are starting to get into it too. I know they probably won't be there that late, but it is going to. It's just so rampant. You can go out to the courts anytime in the summer, and they are packed. And that's why we're there to help facilitate that. But yeah.
And I was trying to get a better idea of what the numbers are, right? So at the end of the day, you said you were there, right? So you have some idea of who's using those courts.
9,000 people over the last. That was from last year.
I understand that's a lot of people. The question I have is relative to when the lights would be in use, right? So if we're trying to justify an expenditure of $145,000, that's based on some sort of need, right? That there's an overflow of people, either regular users that are going to be using the courts at night, or there are tournaments that are going to occur that require the use of lights because they're late at night because everybody works,
right?
Or the tournaments are, I'm not sure, but I'm trying to understand myself why we would need to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, because people ask for them. That's the only way we would know. If we had the lights, we would know how many people come after dark. But we don't have the lights, so we don't know that number.
So is there a queue or whatever of people waiting to use the courts, then they can't? I guess that's what I'm trying to get you to answer, right? Is so when you're there, the courts are packed. At night, it's 8 o'clock.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of people there, whatever that number is, 15, 30, 100, that are waiting to use the court.
It's also hard to, so we are in competition with other communities. I'm sorry, I don't want to hijack. I'm Angela Kinderman. I'm the director of the Fitchburg Chamber Visitor and Business Bureau. So I cede my time to hear. But I just felt like some of these questions our office maybe could answer a little bit better. But how do we want to invest in our community? And the McGaw pickleball courts in terms of the numbers. It's hard to analyze how many people would be there on the nights because if we don't have the lights now, they're just choosing to go elsewhere already that have lights. So we don't have actual numbers now that for that specific, I think, question. We know, getting back to the tournament question, that we're simply not in the tournament planners and organizers are, they're looking out 1, 2, 3, 5 years ahead of time to plan their events. And you're just not in the running. We actually got, kind of knocked off the running last year, as Shelley meant. So what we do as an organization to encourage tournaments, and what we did with last year with Kappa, was we provide sponsorship to tournament organizers. We provide concierge service to tournament organizers. We help them with, do you need some caterers? Do you need some vendors? We're gonna promote our Fitchburg businesses to be at those tournaments. We're gonna provide sponsorship, tourism dollar sponsorship to host those. So we make and I believe that I can say this with confidence, we make tournament organizers feel very welcome in our community. We make them feel very supported in our community. Those are the things that we do to encourage people to host here and to continue to host here. Now, we also have a strong partnership with the Madison Area Sports Commission, which Shelley referenced, the largest pickleball tournament that is hosted in Sun Prairie. And Sun Prairie has been ahead of the game with us, as Shelley mentioned, for 16 years. They're doing a great job with their facilities, with their infrastructure, and really, I think, what's really valuable with their volunteer program. They couldn't be doing a great job without the volunteers, and I really have to give credit because 2 or 3 years ago, the pickleball players of Fitchburg came to all these meetings, and they heard loud and clear from the council, what are you guys, where's your skin in the game? What are you guys doing? And as a result, members of pickleball players or residents of Fitchburg formed the McGaw Area Pickleball Advisory Committee. I'm sorry, I get the acronym.
Pickleball Advisory Committee, yeah.
So, in 3 years' time, they have organized formally, they have recruited volunteers, and they're providing real hands-on service to our citizens and our visitors. So I think, they're investing with their time, and I think that's we as a community want to encourage that. And then the last thing I'll say about the ROI is the pickleball courts at McGaw have galvanized the neighborhood and the community. You just did not see the numbers of people connecting and with each other across generations that in McGaw Park that you did since those pickleball courts have been established. If anybody's been to Pickles and Beer on Friday night, there's over 100 people hanging out, playing pickleball, talking with their neighbors. Just this year, another neighborhood group organized something called Bike Run Walk to McGaw, and they've hosted 3 picnics, potlucks, encouraging people in the community and in the neighborhoods to bike, run, or walk to McGaw, hang out, have some dinner together. So really that we have always said in Fitchburg, how do we create a sense of community? How do we connect people? We don't have our own school districts. We have to work extra hard to do that. And I think your investment in the McGaw area, in the McGaw pickleball courts, because of the sport, because of who it attracts, it is doing some of those intangible things that I understand it's hard to put a price tag on, but it is doing some of those things that we have always said we wanted in Fitchburg.
Yeah.
May I ask another question?
I'm going to go ahead of you, Heidi, because
Chris beat you to it, Heidi.
Yep. 1 second.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I just want to also, this is kind of just public comment section. I appreciate all of your work today and to get us to this space where we had a ribbon cutting. So this is kind of turning into, this isn't typical. Typically we hear public comment. No, I'm saying I appreciate all the information you're giving us and giving us some time to ask some questions. Great deal. I did want to say that, some of your concerns or your questions, Scott, I'm sorry, Sam, apologies. I think we just have to look outside of our community and other communities that have invested in lights and having the full kind of package for pickleball and what it has brought. I think today it was my pleasure to give a speech for the pickleball ribbon cutting on behalf of the commission. But I think hearing from the Chamber of Commerce for Fitchburg, hearing from the mayor, I think a lot of some of the benefits are to the community. You mentioned many of them as well. I think we have invested already a lot of money in the courts themselves, and this is kind of the missing piece to make it exactly what it should be, to bring it to the next level so that we are attracting that. So we don't know outside of kind of anecdotal, but we can look outside of Fitchburg to other areas that have that full package to understand what could come. And again, like we've all said, like there's no guarantee, but if we have all the pieces there, I think it's a natural tendency for folks to come in, and you all have your investments within the larger county organizations. And I think it would, for me, I'll be voting in support of this tonight.
Heidi, you have your hand up.
Thank you. And just to be clear, I'm not necessarily opposed to the lighting. I mean, I think realistically, since we do get darker earlier than a lot of other, parts of the country, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But I'm more concerned about the logistics. Are the lights going to be locked and require a key so that somebody would have to make sure that they're turned off and on appropriately? Another community I worked with, I know that they would charge a deposit for the key, and then you had to pay, say, $25 for electricity. Is this something that your group would be opposed to, having an add-on when the lights have to go on, a $25, or I'm just picking a number, it could be anything. Would your group be opposed to paying a little extra to have those lights on just to help recover the $145,000 that it's going to cost to build it? Thank you.
Can I just jump? This is public comment, so I think we're really veering off. So I just want to really focus, kind of just, this is for comment only, and I think, having that type of question or conversation, I don't think is appropriate.
I apologize for answering.
So I would encourage you to move on.
The only reason why I asked that question is because I knew you were taking count or whatever, so I was trying to help you.
We're getting pretty deep into the weeds from someone who's, no offense, they're not the applicants. They're not coming forward tonight requesting this. They are just here to make comments on what's on the agenda. So just that we can steer it back.
Thank you.
Right.
It's all right. Are we done?
Okay, so that question won't be answered then?
I can answer that question once we actually get to that point.
Thank you.
Then I'm not exactly sure why we're even discussing this.
Once we get to a motion and then open discussion, we'll come back to that, Heidi.
This is public comments right now, or we're taking comments on it.
Right, but you're asking us to put forth a motion.
Not yet.
Not quite yet.
We haven't yet.
We have one more citizen registration. Sorry. Aaron Shetler, wishing to speak in support.
So I'm kind of the person that does a lot of the events at McGaw. We have run Pickles and Beer for the past 4 years, have seen the attendance go from 8 in May, the first year that we held it, to now we drew 130 people a couple of weeks ago on a Friday night. It's a lot of people every Friday night. It is the single largest event in Dane County. However, what happens with the days is that as the days get shorter, our playtime is less and our attendance will get less. And you asked about direct numbers, and I've been tasked with keeping track of some of the attendance at the park over the course of the past 2 years, so the numbers that Shelley came up with, and I have the evening account. So if you look at April and May, it's dramatically less when the days aren't quite as long. You get 600, 700 people in the evening over the course of a month during the high part of the summer. We've already dropped 100 at the end of September, or at the end of August, and another 100 in September. So what you see is that number dropping because people can't play as late. When you've got working population, they can't get there till 6 o'clock. They only can play till 7, maybe 6:30 now. So adding lights extends the opportunity to play for people that may not be able to get there during the day. And we see really great attendance during the day, but at night, your working population just can't access it because the day is too short. So the lights will dramatically improve accessibility for those folks. When you asked about, I'm going to directly answer a question about opposition to paying a fee. If we charge for a key, the people that work, the people that just want to drop in will have no access again. So you're not creating any better opportunity by doing that. I think the other courts, Cottage Grove and McFarland that I've used, because they have lights, there's a push button and it's a timer and then it goes off at a certain time and then there's no activation after a certain point. They turn off at 10 o'clock, they're done. And I think that system, obviously those communities have done it, it works. So no keys, no rentals. When you talk about return on investment, we don't charge anything for pickles and beer. We promote it as a social mingling of people. Bring together the cross-section of Dane County and drop in and meet everyone and get together and play. It is a fabulous event. If you've never been there, it just is a wonderful opportunity to meet people and to see what a cross-section it draws. And I think that's something that's very positive for this community. And I think something we should promote at the other, when we facilitate, other communities have these groups, our volunteer groups. No one facilitates open play. Ours is the only one that does it. And the response that we get from people that play is it's incredible. It's organized. It's fair to everyone. They get equal play time. The courts are well managed. Those are the comments that we get. And I think having the lights will allow us to offer more facilitated play maybe in the evening with the additional courts. We can offer some more opportunities to people. But in terms of paid opportunities, I also had the opportunity to run a tournament this past spring, and it was a one-day tournament. I'll disagree with Shelley, just a minor point. I don't think it was easy to run, but we ran a tournament for the Yahara House, which was to raise mental health funds for the people of Dane County that utilize that clubhouse, and it serves just a wide range of people in Dane County. We were able to raise $10,000 for them in a one-day tournament that they use to help support uninsured individuals with mental illness. It was their single biggest fundraiser that they've ever had. And we had that at McGaw. It was positive press for the city of Fitchburg, and they want to do that again. And I think, so that's, while it's not a guarantee, I've committed to running it if we can get the courts. So we'll put that application in, and we would love to continue that. Another idea that's been floated out is to do a battle of the breweries, which would be like an MLP type style. There's a tournament kind of style that you'll see at the professional level where you play teams against each other. And to do a tournament like that, having the breweries that are in the area sponsor teams, that would bring in revenue to the city. And you could probably do that over the course of evenings, or you could do it as a one-day event again. But again, having the lights allows us to expand the time frame that we can utilize for these tournaments. And I just think the opportunity is there for us to even run our own things, not just rely on the big outside tournaments. So I just feel like this is a huge benefit to the city of Fitchburg, and I hope that you guys see that value and the potential and can support the lights.
Thank you.
Any questions for me? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That was the last registrant we have to speak. So would anybody like to make a motion on R17125?
R17125.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay. Second. Any discussion?
So this is for lights?
This is for, yes, this is for.
Yeah, I guess I just want to clarify. I'm all for the pickleball stuff. I think it's awesome what you guys have done. But as a taxpayer, I'm trying to understand why we would spend $145,000. And I think the last woman who just spoke did the best job of just saying, hey, we got this many people coming in months, and here's how we're going to use it. And so I'm all for that. Part of what you guys have done is amazing, so I don't want to take away from that. However, $145,000 is a bunch of money for lights that, how are they going to be used? And it sounds like, based on what I heard, that they are going to be used quite a bit. So that's what I was looking for. Thank you. I forgot what her name was, but that's what I was looking for. So thank you for providing that answer.
Sorry, who'd you point at?
Arm wrestle. No, I'm just
Can I
kidding.
go?
No.
Okay. I'm going to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I'll go first. So first of all, the change order is for $160,000. So the base lights, so this was bid originally with this project back in March. It was approximately $143,000 to do the work, $144,000. The contractor has agreed to hold that price if we decide to go forward with that. The only thing they've asked for is an additional $2,100 for a crane. They got to bring a crane in and actually set the lights now, just because of what's been built out there. So we've also added some contingency into that as well, so it's approximately $160,000. This would be paid for. It's not levy. This is paid with park fees. So it's not on the city's levy. It's actually park fees that have been paid by developer. So it's not on the taxes. Obviously, the operating cost of that would be as part of the levy, but the actual construction of this is through park fees.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sue.
Thank you to Adam and others. I peppered him with a lot of questions the last couple of days with the idea that we would have information to discuss here. And one of my questions he answered that I had asked about, that this money is coming from the Artisan Village project, which is in Southdale, and that there's a deadline to spend it. And my question is, what is the deadline? So the deadline for the funds you wrote is April of 2027, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And then I wanted to understand, because we have big plans for Southdale, that we don't know what those are going to cost yet. And could this money that we're talking about tonight be spent on some of the improvements that we put on paper at Southdale?
Me? Okay. So we, as staff, when we looked at this, we looked at the Artisan Village fees just because that expiration date is coming up. So we keep track of all these, and within 8 years they have to be spent. If you don't spend them within 8 years, they get returned back to the developer. So Artisan Village, as we looked at this, was selected for that reason. Part of Sue's question was along the lines of, is there additional funding for Southdale if there's additional needs there as well too? Yes. So we still have approximately $45,000 in that Artisan Village fees that have not been marked for anything per se. So we still will have to spend that down regardless if this is approved or not by the council. We'd still have to spend that within that 8 years before April of 2027. We also still have residual funds left over from the Town of Madison attachment that could be tapped into as well. There's a sufficient amount of funds in there too if we had a project, or if that project in Southdale came in higher than we anticipated. So quite honestly, if there's heartburn and concern from the council over, or park commission over, just where the funds are being drawn from, we have other options out there, but this was targeted mostly because that deadline is coming up to us, and we want to make sure that we're not in a situation where we have those funds not expended by that deadline. And this is a permissible use that we can use those funds for.
Right, and was part of my wanted to make sure I understood, because generally those funds are for community parks. But for this fund could be used for Southdale, even though it's not designated as a community park.
Correct. So initially in Southdale right now, what we've done out there is obviously the master planning work. EOR is done. EOR is in the process of doing the technical design work. And then we've purchased the new playground. They actually tore out the old playground this week. So the new playground will be in there, installed in a couple weeks. With that new playground, since it was going in the exact same place that the old playground was going in, we utilized some of that Town of Madison residual, just because using those park fees that we had, we have to use it for new amenities. And technically we're replacing an existing amenity in the same exact place. So we had to then shift money as a budget amendment for that a few months ago in order to get that project moving forward. So we shifted the money we had planned to use from Artisan Village. We put 115 from that Town of Madison residual into that instead of using the Artisan Village funds because of not creating that new amenity. But as you look at new amenities out there, whether it be restrooms, shelters, a spray feature, whatever it may be, that's where we can tap those, Artisan Village funds or other potentially, well, not other funds, but the Town of Madison residual funds.
Well, right, and that's part of my point is that if this money went for the lights, and then we find out after the fact we need more money for Southdale, that was the fund we could have used for Southdale, spent on lights. And so that was a concern I had. And a question that someone may be able to answer is, what does it cost for a tournament situation to have rent portable lights? And I don't know, Dave might know, being the public works guy, or someone else might know, but that's just an unknown that I was concerned about or would like to know. And I agree and understand that it's a popular sport and you'll get more people using it and you don't know how many until you have the lights. So there's a pros and cons to this particular pile of money. It's could be used elsewhere, but if we spend it on the lights, it's forever gone and we don't have any easy place to grab more money to go to that other use. And we're not done planning. When are we going to hear back from EOR about Southdale?
So they're working on it right now, and then what's left in the Town of Madison residual fund is well over $500,000. So there's a sizable amount of money in there.
Oh.
The allocation for Southdale hasn't changed the funding. So I think it was $400,000 that was authorized by the council. Obviously, that's design work has eaten into that. Mm-hmm. Rob's work coming up, or EOR's work right now, just on that. But in the coming months, they'll have some designs drawn up. They're in the process of getting a survey of the property right now. So it's in the works.
Yeah, I just thought I heard you say at a prior meeting that we may have difficulty building out everything we put into the plan.
You probably will. I mean, that plan is pretty ambitious, if I'm being bluntly honest with you. What's in that plan of what you're considering a spray feature, it's going to vary on that. Plus, factoring in that spray feature is going to be the operating cost of it, too. And that's one of the pieces of information I've requested from Rob of if we're considering a spray feature there. With our challenges right now in budgeting and just the limits that we have, I mean, the operating cost is the bigger challenge of that. So if it's not a system like McKee Farms where it's a recirculating system, you're going to be pumping a lot of water through that, and there's going to be a sizable water bill on that. So we're trying to figure out what that is, because ultimately, if we'd be very careful as we look at that, just what those operating costs are going to be, because we have the funds to build this stuff, but it's the operating that we struggle with. It's kind of the double-edged sword of these park fees, where you have a lot of ability to build the stuff, but then later on it's hard to maintain and then ultimately operate it. It's a challenge.
Right. Thank you for your answers.
Well, that was my question too, in terms of maintenance. I mean, so if we pay to install them and then we're not charging for the electricity, which is obviously going to be an expenditure, at some point these courts are going to need maintenance. Are the pickleball associations willing to help with that or commit anything to that? Or is it the expectation that the city will take care of this on its own?
So just, did you want to answer that or add a comment? So just, I'm kind of taking notes, and I want to make a few comments on a few things that I heard so far. And one was just mentioning concern about lights and our management of lights, and we have other lights at McKee, and I would assume that we would similarly manage the lights in McGaw. Also, in regards to paying for the light usage, where I don't know if it's appropriate to have Fitchburg residents pay an additional tax because they've already paid for this, in essence, through the tax, their tax. So I think we have to be careful with that. That could come from fee rentals versus an additional tax to clubs, in my mind. And also, just being there today, the bases for the lights are already there. So I think, I know that it's an additional cost for the lights themselves, but the infrastructure is there. It's not like we are putting in bases as well. There is future plan for there to be lights at some point. So I would just call to that. So I think, again, the point I made earlier tonight around having already invested the amount of money in the courts, I would strongly suggest that we vote to have the full package so that we can see the revenue come in from tournaments and know that that's an additional revenue stream versus kind of this not seeing that long-term goal.
Alder Herbst?
Well, and as I pointed out, I'm not strictly opposed to the lighting. I think it's a very smart idea. I just feel like, as you've stated, we've already invested a huge amount in these pickleball courts in the hopes of tournaments coming. And I just, I don't want to use the term skin in the game, but I mean, I'm hoping that the tournament associations or the pickleball associations would be willing to put through a little, either in maintenance or in terms of paying for the extra cost of the electricity or the extra cost of installing. And I guess that's just where I'm wondering is, for those that play pickleball, this is great. But for people that don't, this is just more money that is going to be required at a later date. So I guess that's just sort of my only objection.
Alder Herbst?
First, the question, I have some comments. I don't know if Adam knows this. Are these lights, are they dark sky compliant? We got a big deal with that in the city.
It's one of the questions I asked, and I was told they are. I can't say dark sky compliant, but they have the full cutoffs on them, so they are dumb. Right. They're also LEDs as well too. I know that was a question that came up earlier.
I'll just state, I think the lights are a great idea. I don't think tournaments will ever, the cost we're spending on, we're never making that back, in economic, get some food carts and things like that. The benefit is to residents being able to play longer. I think tournaments, people come, they play, they bring a picnic basket and then they go home. So, I'd love to have the tournaments, but I don't think we're making the money back. I am concerned, as Sue is, we want to be an equitable city. We have an area in the city that has a park that, and a low-income group of residents that could use a nicer park, and we'd like to do everything we could to make sure that happens for the group. So I'm still in favor of the lights, but where I would come down on it, and I was probably the one that said I want some skin in the game. I would like you to fundraise to pay for half of the cost of the lights, and then I'm good with it. The residents in District 1 where I live, they're not coming over to use it. Okay, I'm sorry, they're not coming over there. And, they'd be paying for electricity. I'm fine with electricity. That's not a big deal. But they're not coming over to use it from where we live. We have a tennis court that's striped for pickleball. But, I have I represent probably the largest percentage of low-income people in the city. They're not coming over to play pickleball. So I'm for this. I think it'd be great. But I like the groups. We talk about 9,000 people. Well, they wouldn't take much for that, 9,000 to come up with half of the cost for it. And I'd be fine. You say, all right, it'd be hard to come up with that 80,000. I'm fine with moving ahead with the promise that it's going to be raised and turn to taxpayers, so we would, maybe have it for Southdale if we need it. So that's where I come down. I can't be more happy with what's going on at that park. I attended the pickles event and it was wonderful. Many people asked me today though why I didn't bring my dogs back with me this time. I had them there the first night. So everything is positive here, but I just look at the bigger picture and the people that are playing this, to be honest, they could afford to come up with the money to pay for half of it is what I'm asking. So that's where I fall. I'm all for it. I just don't think that I'd rather ensure that Southdale Park gets built to provide a great park for that neighborhood up there. And so that's all I was going to say.
I got one other follow-up on what Sue
Chris
had.
beat you to it. I'll come back to you.
So I just wanted to, first of all the presenters that came to speak, I thank you for coming tonight, and want to recognize already the amount of sweat equity that you have already put in to make the reality of what we have right now. And I think that investment of time and energy will continue. Frankly, think they'll happen regardless of whether we have lights or not, and we can continue to push for lights. I think we should pass and have that. I've said that already. I think that all of the work that you've already put in for free should be counted for something. As a resident, Dave is a Fitchburg. Dave is my older in District 1, and I said today what I did in regards to my dad being a tennis player, and I would love to learn to play myself. And I think I appreciate all of your time and dedication and your efforts, and want to recognize that and know that you have my support. So,
thank you, Sam.
Yeah, kind of piggyback on what you just said, Dave, and then also Sue's question relative to this Southdale Park thing. How long will the contractor hold his price so that you'd know if there are additional costs that may be incurred before you move funds to pay for the lighting?
So regarding the funding from Artisan Village, I mean, if that's the concern, we can easily find a different funding source. I mean, there's enough park fees that we have available.
Well, how do you know that until you know what the number is?
Well, we know the lighting number is about 150.
No, I know that. I'm talking about if there's some additional work at Southdale.
We
You're
don't.
saying that,
you run the risk of that money if you hit April of 27 and it hasn't been spent. That's the kicker.
My question is, if you can delay the contractor and then get a more definitive number, then you would know what kind of impact that would have.
What I'm saying is you don't have to delay the contractor on this because we have additional park fee money that we could pull.
You said $45,000 is what I heard.
That's what's going to be left over. So assuming we transfer this money over for the McGaw lights, at the end of the day, there's still $45,000 that's not allocated to anything. So, even outside of this conversation we're having today, for what's been allocated already to Southdale, there's going to be, roughly I'm on the fly here, about $150,000. If this doesn't get approved and doesn't go forward, that's still unallocated right now. That has to be spent before April of 27. And that's just for the Artisan Village. It doesn't account for other development and projects we have going throughout the city right now. So if the hang up is where staff has identified taking this money from, we could easily find an alternative that would work as well too. We identified these funds strictly on, what are the next ones that are set to expire. That's how we looked at it. And then as we looked at it as well too, if there was a concern about Southdale in the future, we still had residual money from the town of Madison at the council. If there was a priority for the council to get that done, they could do a budget amendment and transfer that into a project at the park at Southdale as well too. But if it's a strong desire of we want to leave those Artisan Village funds there, sure, no problem. Staff can go out and I could identify with our finance director 3, 4, 5 other sources of park fees we have.
Yeah, to me, it seems prudent to do so.
Yeah.
I'll just add to that conversation, thinking about design and construction timelines, given that the Southdale project has just made it through kind of the vision planning phase and is still working on the construction documents. It'll need to come before commission, be reviewed, go back, come back, go through rounds of approval. So then we're looking at a timeline for getting projects out to bid, not until, mid 2026 probably, and then with the hope of a 2027 construction. And if those funds expire in 2027, April of 2027, that ship has already sailed. So
we do want to bid this winter. So our plan is to bid probably early next year. Is we want to bid that project and get that built next year. It's the goal, but that is what our plan is of that. So
it's a noble goal. We'll do our best to meet it.
So what you just said said, you're talking about Southdale.
I'm sorry, yes. This project right now for the lights would be done, if it's approved, goes through, would be built by end of this year.
Okay.
The lights.
So if the Southdale was bid, just so I understand that, if we see everything, we go through the whole process, it would be bid this fall and we would be able to get it done, you think?
Southdale will not be bid this fall, probably just after the first. I mean, I ideally late winter is when that gets bid for Southdale.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
And it's going to be tight, but yes, that's.
So I'm sorry, again, I'm just wondering why, so I would imagine the pickleball season is pretty close to being over, once the snow starts flying. So having this done by the end of the year and then not being able to have utilization of it until, let's say April or May, I don't know why we're prioritizing this over Southdale. I mean, just, in the name of equity, I just feel like we've kind of set Southdale aside for so long, and now we're talking about lights in pickleball areas that aren't even going to be utilized until probably next spring.
Sarah?
Thanks. I was just going to say, I appreciate the volunteers and just kind of reiterate everyone's commentary. I've been to McGaw and have noticed as to how busy it is and popular, and definitely think it's a very cool event for the community. I do support the lights. The infrastructure is there. I do think it broadens our opportunities to bring forward tournaments and just opens up additional traffic. And I think that it is something that if we're going to have competitive pickleball courts within the area, they have lights. That makes sense to me. I do love Sue and Dave's commentary on Southdale, and I think that as a commission, we have said that that's a priority park and that it's something that we really do want to focus on, and I think that those are very good questions, but understand Adam's timeline, that just seems like this is using funds appropriately, and that if funds exist for the future, that all makes sense. The only thing I guess I have in the back of my mind is when we do review park fees in the future, to Dave's point of potentially getting money from those individuals that use the court, I think that this is something that we should keep in mind, that there's electricity. Maybe those park fees for the pickleball courts should increase when we have that discussion in the future. But I support the lights. I think it makes sense. It just feels as though with the infrastructure there, it's inevitable, and it just opens up the opportunities.
Dave?
I'm for having lights there. It's just, like you say, where the money comes, the lights will be great. It'll make it super. But I'm more concerned, on a 90-degree day. I was at Southdale on a weekend, and parents are under the trees and the kids are under the trees, and I thought, boy, they sure could use a splash pad here, that they could enjoy. And there's a lot of those kids in that neighborhood. They are not getting to a splash pad in McGaw. They're not getting to a pool anywhere. Their park is right there. Their homes are close. I want to make sure that gets in. If I hope I don't seem like I'm being too obtuse, I'd say, can you fundraise to come up with half of it so I can ensure that I get a splash pad for those kids in that park? I don't feel bad asking that, guys.
So then the rub is you're saying you can find different sources for the lighting, Adam. I heard you say that. But then the rub still is, with this block of money, it has to be spent somewhere, and the timeline is tight for Southdale. But it is sort of special that it can be used at Southdale where other funds can't.
So the Artisan Village can be used at Southdale, or in a community, I think it's a community park like McGaw. But in Southdale, if it's being used, it has to be used for new amenities. So that's why it couldn't be used for the playground replacement, because it was replacing playground in the exact same spot.
Right.
You can add it in new spots, but you can't take what we did recently, taking the old in the exact same spot and putting new equipment in. Yeah, so if it was in addition to your point, like, 120 feet away, whatever it might be, yeah, you could do that and use those funds.
Yeah, well, and that was why I mentioned it was sort of a lower priority when we talked about Southdale, or not, it wasn't in the main park proper, but there's a whole group of residents that use the west end, and that's in our plan, but it wasn't a major focus. But for the people that use that every weekend, they'd appreciate it. So, I made the motion to approve, didn't I?
Yes, and we have a second. There could be an amendment, I suppose, if there is one.
I'd move to amend that this be changed, asking that half the price be raised through donations for these lights. The stipulation that this could go ahead with the promise that the donations would be obtained in the future.
I would second that.
Is there discussion on the amendment? So I would say that
How do we track that? How do we track that? How do we keep accountability? I'm unfamiliar with kind of fundraising that I don't know how we would, I don't know, Adam, if you...
We won't fundraise.
I know, but how do we keep track of their fundraising and accountability of something that's already been put in? That seems tough.
They're honorable people.
I'm not saying that. It just seems
very honorable. Yeah.
documentation.
Yeah, I am Julieta Frata, the mayor, and I want to make a comment about asking organization to pay for the infrastructure of the city. It took me, do you remember the inclusive playground? Mm-hmm. Okay. The idea was to fund that project 50-50. You know how many years it took me to fundraise $100,000? No, $100,000 or $80,000? 4 years. And we were able to find the money because one company in Fitchburg wrote a check of $50,000. So, as Adam mentioned, the money is there to use for park dedication fee. Southdale Park is a very important park to me too. I was the one who decided to put the water feature in the park. But then talking to Adam, we are having an issue right now because how costly is it going to circulate the water? Operational cost. So we are trying to figure out how we can make it happen, and how much it's going to cost to have that water feature, because it's going to cost a lot of money to circulate the water and recycle the water and the pumps and all of that. So Southdale is an important park for me too. Okay? What we are trying to do here is we are trying to create a sense of community. We already invested in the electric bases for this park. I think we need to look at the big picture here. Okay? And yes, maybe Kappa already, I've seen that this group of people, I have been going there, I play peekaboo, I am taking lessons that I pay, okay? I rent my cart every time that I go and pay my $10, okay? So they are putting a lot of, like Chris mentioned, sweat equity. They are doing all the programming from us. We don't have that capacity in City Hall. We don't have people to do that. If we had to put a number on the hours that they put and the programming and all of that, I don't know how much it's going to cost. So I think we need to be, they are already doing one piece that is very important, is the programming, coordination, providing free clinics, lessons. There are some of those lessons during the weekday in the morning that they are free. I cannot take it because I have to work, but there are plenty of opportunity. And maybe what we need to do, as the internal reorganization is happening in the City Hall with the Community Service Department, the new department that we have in the city where recreation is going to be under, we need to think how people from District 1, from Dave District, or neighbor from there can access to the pickleball court, can access to free lessons. This is the thing that you also have to think about in this commission. If we talk about equity, let's talk about that. How we are going to improve programming in recreation, in parks activity. All of that in favor. You know me. That's it. I want to tell you, yes, it's a noble idea. You say, Dave, yeah, we're going to ask them to put the pitch $50,000, 50%. It's going to take years to fundraise the money. Believe me, I was there. I did it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would disagree with you, Mayor. That at a relatively small, Inclusive Park is a smaller number of people. We have 9,000 people that offered. I'm just asking. I don't think I'm being unreasonable here.
I'm not going to use that splash pad. So they're going to pay for that.
Pay for the one in McKee. That you have a working, sir. You have a working pickleball court right now. You have a working pickleball court.
So yeah. So moving on. I think we have. Did we have a second on Alder's amendment? Okay. So first we need to vote on the amendment.
Could I just say one thing?
Quickly, please.
I will be very brief. The 9,000 number was uses, not people, just so. Because I think that's what I heard before. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, those in favor of the amendment requesting fundraising be shared with the pickleball groups. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. 2 in favor. Those opposed?
No.
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 Okay, so that amendment fails. So the motion stands for approving Resolution R17125 as written. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion as written, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Was that in support or opposition, Heidi?
I'm not going to support it without some investment from the pickleball associations.
Okay, so opposed as stands. Thank you very much. But the motion passes. So we can move on to item 4B, which is discussion and possible action regarding Swan Creek court design. So we have one resident registered to speak. Patrick Cheney, you wish to speak in support.
This item is the decision on whether this Swan Creek courts should be rebuilt as is or changed to add on 2 dedicated pickleball courts. Dedicated pickleball courts can only be used for pickleball. And then I think the other part of it was 1 tennis court that is dual striped, right? I believe. So I still think that it, as I said before, I said all this at the previous meeting, but this may be the time to make the point. It's fine as it is with 2 courts that are tennis and dual striped for pickleball because we just had a ribbon cutting for 12 pickleball dedicated courts. So to create 2 new pickleball courts that are dedicated for pickleball only over there, it's still walking distance from there. It's a hike, but it's walkable over to the dedicated McGaw 12 pickleball courts. What I think would be better is if the McGaw tennis courts, tennis/pickleball, dual stripe /archery, was rebuilt as is, $3,000 possibly. And then if there's overflow or somebody wants to play a ad hoc game or practice or whatever, 5-minute walk through the same park, through McGaw Park, to go over to the other corner of the same park and they're dual striped, and pickleball could go on there. If there's a tournament going on, 14 courts in the same park. And if that's not enough, okay, it's a, I'd say 15-minute walk over to Swan Creek, but 2 of the courts are still dual striped for pickleball. So I'm in favor of repairing the Swan Creek tennis courts / dual stripe pickleball as is, and not tearing them out for $300,000, but rather filling the one wide crack in the west court and redoing the surface. And the east court is just fine as is. Go look at it. There is nothing wrong with it. If you want to redo the surface at the same time, fine. But that's like maybe $30,000, 1/10 of the cost.
Thank you. All right. We do not need a motion on this first because we don't necessarily know what we would be taking action on. So, Adam, you want to give us any new background information?
Yeah, so on the 9th of September, the council approved the funding for the Swan Creek kind of redesign and also allocating the funds for that. We talked about it at the September Parks Commission meeting, and quite honestly, I kind of left that meeting maybe with not as much certainty as I would prefer. Staff's preference for this project as we look at it and design it is to kind of get the certainty up front instead of bidding like we did for Chicory Meadows. We had, I think 3 different alternatives. We'd like to bid this with just one. That makes it easier for staff. It makes it less confusing for everybody. And then ultimately, even the contractors bidding on it. When we have multiple alternatives, they don't like that. So I'm looking for direction tonight and hopefully a motion out of this of just how you want to see this designed. I think from staff standpoint, right now it is 2 tennis courts that is dual striped for pickleball. We have the other option out there potentially of doing 1 tennis court and then having 2 separate pickleball courts. I know Alder Riekstedt sent out an email and did I think a Facebook post as well, kind of asking for comments as part of that. We received actually a bunch of emails on that. I think Dave saw a bunch of those as well too, but it's a pretty split vote, to be honest with you. I mean, I think I didn't see the Facebook comments, but I think just the emails I got more people saying they wanted to see 2 tennis courts stay there and have it dual striped. Had somebody give the comment of, and this was interesting, you've got those backstops, I guess, for a tennis where you can just sit there and hit the ball off it if you're by yourself. That was an interesting comment, I thought. But just looking for, what does the Park Commission want us to do? Like I said, we left last time, I think it was kind of left a little bit up in the air, and I just want that certainty. And I think one of the comments we got is, it's not getting used as much right now. It's just because of the condition of it. So a lot of people did make that comment to us. They felt like it's been neglected and it does need some repairs of some type. So I'd like to get that clarified. We do have we're working with a consultant right now trying to get those agreements pulled together. So he would like to start the work. And then we'd like to get this bid this winter with the hopes of getting some good pricing on it as well.
All right. Yeah, I think we heard from one pickleball player at one of these meetings that kind of voiced support for the 1 versus 2 idea, being that each one is a little bit more. Those pickleball courts are better suited to pickleball without having to share. On the other hand, both courts, can offer a little bit of compromise, and replacing what is there with the similar thing not rocking the boat might be a good idea. People don't like change, as we know. So replacing what's there might be, might be the smoothest option in my opinion. But I don't have a racket, so it doesn't matter that much to me. So, Sue, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and I agree with that comment. And Run Up the Flag, Patrick and I agree about replacing it with what's already there. But one of the questions I have, for the same reasons, and I got in my car today and drove. It's 0.8 miles from the pickleball courts now in McGaw to the tennis courts at Swan Creek, if anyone was curious, the distance. When you have the dual striped, and maybe nobody knows this answer, maybe someone out in the audience does, are there nets that are created that can be lowered so that when you play pickleball, it's at the lower height and you can put them back up for tennis?
I believe it's a strap, if I'm not mistaken. I think we've looked at this before. Yeah, so it's getting that height to where it needs to be. I don't think anyone really enjoys those that much, just to be clear. But
Right,
yeah, I
yes.
believe it's a strap that ties onto, then ties into the bottom, and it pulls the net down.
Yeah, so it's
They're nodding their heads yes, so I assume I'm close. So yes.
So for your inventors out there, if you want to make $1 million, that would be one way. But that was one of my questions. And then when it's bid, I mean, whether it is tennis or pickleball, can we find out the cost of having a fence between the two courts? Or was that standard in the other at Chicory Meadow? I don't remember. Well, it's different. It would be different at Chicory Meadow anyway, so it's immaterial.
Yeah, so if we design it, we're going to design it that we've talked about this before, but we're trying to design these at a level that take less maintenance. So if we do redo this, then obviously we're going to strip the whole thing. We're going to put a certain level or certain type of asphalt in there. The asphalt has got to be at a higher level to it. We're also going to do the membrane, I forget the exact term, on top as well, hoping to cut down on the cracks as well. But we can ask the consultant if he would recommend a fence in between or not. And I'm not sure how that works for tennis. I guess I'm not a tennis player either, so I don't know. But I can ask about
Right,
that.
yeah. I don't have a racket either, so sometimes my questions don't come across as too sharp. But those were my questions. And then we don't know the future of the McGaw tennis courts, and it's just not part of the discussion. So I just would only want to talk about the relationship between McGaw pickleball and whatever is going to go in at Swan Creek.
Heidi, I think you were next.
Excuse me, thank you. I'm in favor of the current design just being maintenance, fixed, if you will. Sort of piggybacking off of what Sue said. I mean, we're already, I think it was Sue, somebody said we're already, adding 12 more pickleball courts. So I just don't feel like every park needs a pickleball court. And I think if we could get away with fixing it so that it serves a dual purpose, that's not only good for the players, but it's also good for the taxpayers. So thank you. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, I jokingly made a mention of my dad, who's a tennis player, at today's ribbon cutting. And what I do like about the dual, having pickleball and the tennis in the same area, is that it concentrates the amount of use. So you can have potentially all of those courts being used at the same time, and we're getting more folks in the park. I like that idea. And I think one thing that I said in my speech today was, can we all just get along? I know that we do have the dual stripes on the existing courts, but again, the splitting that into two different courts for pickleball increases the number of folks that can potentially play at one time. So I like that and support that, the split.
Alders.
Saw the note from Adam. I was all for the rebuild, and I watched the court next to my house in Masson owns was as bad or worse shape than that, and I watched workers come in and put in cut those cracks out, clean them out, put a special cement in, special epoxy cement in to a 1/4 inch from the top, then more of a flexible filler to smooth it out, and they painted it, and that court looks brand new. And the city engineer from Madison, I asked, what do you expect? He said 10 years. And what was the cost? And well, they had done a number of them. They had a large number, but he said, well, it was about $14,000 a court. So my thought was, I watched the vendor. I was over there every day watching them do the work, and I was really kind of skeptical. And that court looks like it's brand new. If you get 10 years, I think we'd be much better off refurbishing it. And 10 years, tennis play kind of continues to wane. I'm sorry to say that, and see where we're at in 10 years. But I think it would be worth that. That vendor did a great job, and Adam indicated that the drainage isn't right, and that's causing a problem. Well, maybe we didn't have that good of a vendor the last time. We seal the cracks up and fill them, and let's go, is my, is my thinking on it. We have a spec, I provided Madison had a spec for doing the work, and I'd like us to reconsider that, but again, seems like the city is against that.
Any comments? So, Adam, my understanding is right. So the city is looking to bring a consultant on board to figure out the best way to fix them one way or another. The direction you're looking for is sort of the design, the arrangement, if there's a preference?
So we did a similar process on Swan Creek in about 2014, 2015, and by about 2018 it had failed. So at that point we brought in a consultant in 2018 who at that point made a variety of recommendations to fix it, repair it, and whatnot. I think Dave's numbers are probably pretty close. If we went that route again, if we tried to do something of crack filling it and putting that sealer on top and try to repaint it, in talking internally with staff, we have concerns we're going to have problems here pretty quickly again. It's going to crack again. We're going to be in the same position we're in right now. So if we hire a consultant, our intention is we're ripping that out because we have funding. Funding's been approved by the council to tear it out and replace it. So our intention would be a full replacement. And that's based upon the report we had done in 2018 that said it had issues at that point, and then even now we haven't done anything with it or not much with it since 2018. So I'm looking for that authorization tonight of how do you want it to be completely redesigned, and but it will be completely ripped out and replaced.
Yeah, so that's basically been kind of determined already, and you're looking for direction on the.
We voted on it last year.
We have funding authorized by the council.
I would agree with what you had to say relative to the two tennis courts and the fact that Sue did a 0.8 from the distance from there to the pickleball courts. It just makes sense to me that just leave it as is with the two tennis courts and dual stripe them. I think that's what they should do, just go out for a single two tennis court bid.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I would. Second motion.
All right.
Can I clarify? Does that include the dual striping like it is today? So basically what it is today.
Yeah.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
And do we have to state that we would be evaluating for whether a fence in between improves the usage or play?
So most likely the person we're going to go with it's Fred, and he does
He
these.
knows.
He knows.
Okay.
I'm going to ask him the question. If he says yes, there needs to be a fence there, we're going to put a fence there.
Thank
If
you.
he says no, there's no need for a fence, you shouldn't do it, I'm going to lean on him for that.
Thank you.
Hey, Adam, the comment from the one resident about putting a wall so you could, those are well utilized. There's one on Flat Avenue, the school my kids went to that Madison has, and there's always someone over there practicing hitting against that. I don't know if you could bid that with an option.
I kind of like the idea. I've got one by my house as well, and to your point, I always see people there, usually a kid or somebody hitting a tennis ball. I thought it was a great idea for just a piece of, I'm not sure how big the lumber is, but it's just a piece of plywood generally.
On one, just the end of one court.
We'll get something in there for that.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed? I like the other design.
Okay, all right. One opposed, but the motion does carry. So, agenda item 4C, discussion and possible action regarding the name of the hub, located at 2220 Traceway Drive. We do have two residents, one registered to answer questions if needed. I will read his comments. This is from Ryan Greendeer. Regarding naming of the hub located at 2220 Traceway Drive, presenting the name of a name that I'm afraid to butcher, Hostohosi, which means place together in the Ho-Chunk language. This name is compliant with Fitchburg's naming policy for public parks and open space land. Thank you, Ryan. And we also have a registrant, Patrick Cheney, wishing to speak in support of the matter. Patrick, come on up.
I would like to say that I like the suggestion of commons that Sarah made at the last meeting. I would suggest, as I mentioned in discussion with Adam, that maybe the Park Commission might request a park tour of the hub, calling it the hub so far, over there, and maybe seeing it and discussing it on the spot might be inspirational to come up with any other word or how to use the word common if you like that, which I thought is good. Traceway common or something common or whatever like that, but I like that because center and hub are used too many times already, so that will be confusing, which is, I think, one of Sarah's points. And there hasn't been any park tours in several years, but the Park Commission used to do that, and it was held in the hour before the regular 6 o'clock meeting. And then it was noticed on the agenda because it has to be about, assembling everybody in the audience. The public is included and invited. And if any of you, maybe Sarah, has been on long enough to go on a parks tour, and the van apparently is not owned by the city anymore, but it was a rough ride anyway. Don't go on the van. But public, and you notice 5 o'clock time, or everybody just drive over there and meet there and look at it, get a tour of the hub, because none of you have seen it as far as I know, and look it over and sort of open discussion at the time, because it's noticed, so you can do that, but no decisions, just does this look like a commons area, or what does this look like, and come up with some other possible names, and then come back to the meeting and in an agenda item discuss it officially.
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Ryan, if you have a moment, I would love it if you came up. I just wanted to give some background too, and how we came to the proposed name Hasohochi, and kind of the significance behind that. I know that we actually, and I was really glad to hear the perspective of equity as we think about parks across the system and how we dedicate funds. And I think that extends also to the idea of how we name our parks. And I think one question, Adam, is do we have any of our park facilities named, have any Ho-Chunk names in our park system?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. So I know that I wasn't here for the last conversation that we had, and I did hear that there was some concern about the ability to say the name, but I want to remind us that we live in Wisconsin, which is an indigenous name. We live in Dane County with Lake Mendota, Monona, Wabisa, and Kaganza, which are all part of the Dejope land of the Ho-Chunk originally. So I think we talked a lot about equity, and I want to continue with that idea that when we consider names, that we don't just rely on our current structures, but we can also go back further and recognize the people that lived here much longer than we have, and their continued stewardship of the land. I think, just to give you all some background, I did meet with Ryan, and we had a long conversation over several months to come up with a way to honor that and think about that. And I would really love it if we moved in a way that we could make that a better part of our practice at some point. But Ryan, did you want to add anything to what I've said, or just in consideration? And then what I'd like to do is just maybe put a motion to consider that and what that means. And maybe, Ryan, if you have some more background around how the name came up.
Is green on or is red on?
Green is on.
Not everything has to be called TikTok. Not everything has to be easy to pronounce. Ryan Greeder from the Ho-Chunk Nation. Lived here for a little while. Family's been here for a little while. There's been a lot of different names that we've been called by people. Some of them not so great. We've endured that for a little while. So I was a little surprised, actually, by asked to propose a name for this park. And we talked it over with the president of the Ho-Chunk Nation probably 20, 25 times, because we figured we didn't want to get into the business of renaming everything around here, because people have already renamed it from what we've originally called it. But we continue those discussions, and often they devolve into history lessons, which I absolutely love, both giving and receiving to that end. But one day, not too long ago, we decided, we should just go ahead and put some of these names up. We do it here and there as it comes. But it's good for our own people to see around. It's good for other people to see around that there is a connection to the history of this area for my people, the Ho-Chunk people. And this innocuous name pays some homage to what this area used to be. It used to be multiple villages throughout this area. A lot of our people have never left. When the United States Army came at the behest of a colonel, if I remember right, his last name Doty, chasing down and killing Indians because they wanted to do some lead mining here. Those are our villagers that they chased up through here and ended up wanting to take some land when they had just made a promise of peace. The promise that they had made was that the land wouldn't be settled by other rough trade individuals, miners, loggers that really wanted to come up into this area. That promise of peace ended up, I was at the National Archives not too long ago and came upon a letter by said Colonel Doty asking the President, the Secretary of War, if they can renegotiate those treaties, because they figured they're not using the land, they're not using these mines, and our people are already there, so we may as well just kick them up north a little further. It came at a great loss of life. And we talked about that and said, well, maybe it's good for people to learn just a little bit of history around here. This one, pretty innocuous, but someday it might beg the question of why is it called Hastahochi, a place to gather? And somebody might say, oh, that's because the Ho-Chunk people were here and they are here. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Sue?
Hi, thank you for your comments. We had a phonetic pronunciation and some materials in July, and it didn't sound like the way you said it, so thank you for saying Hastahochi. And I come from a slightly different place where I think because that word means place to gather, the community center itself is just one part of the park, and within there are several gathering rooms. And I would favor having the park named something more traditional for a couple of reasons, which I'll explain, but something like Traceway Drive Park and Community Center. But when you're inside in the gathering place of the one portion of the park, not the pump track, not the basketball, but when you're gathering, that's the name of the gathering room, and there is explanation of history, what the word is, what it means, and you could even have the signage on the park have both, that it is Traceway Park and Community Center and such the gathering rooms, etc. One of the things, and I was not at the last meeting, but when we talked about it in July, when I put the word into mapping or nothing comes up, of course, that can be worked around. But we're creating a space where we're inviting people to come. It's a community park. So if you put the word into an internet search, it does not bring you to the Ho-Chunk language. It brings you to the French word for history. And I don't know that that would ever change. So I think the best opportunity to honor and really explain history accurately would be internally in an inside meeting room. And we had also talked in July about Mayor Doug Morissette, and he's a fine fellow who really was quite an advocate. There's more than one meeting room. If someone really wanted to, they could ask for the other meeting room to be named after Douglas Morissette. But I just think because people need to find it and get there, that you could combine them and still honor the word, the concept, the nation, but we would have a little bit more of our logistics taken care of with doing it the way I'm suggesting.
I would imagine all that signage and homage, as you say, would cost a little more than $140,000, which we obviously have an issue with. But what's a gathering? You know, it's not just myself and gentlemen sitting down in a chair. This entire city is a gathering place. That's how we conducted our gatherings in large villages and multiple villages consolidated together as the Four Lakes area. We had multiple villages all throughout this area, and that was the gathering. We can put it in a room, put it in a shelf, put it in a closet if we want. Maybe that's part of the problem, is that you can't Google it because nobody's thought to put it on the front page yet.
Alder Herbst, put your hand up.
I favor Sue. I would like the main room in there, in the center, to have that name. I favor that. But also tell you, Ryan, we're actively looking for someone that would want to purchase the naming rights for the center. Could be the Joper, Ho-Chunk, Traceway Drive Community Center and Park. We're actively looking for a corporate sponsor for the naming rights. I don't think you're interested in that, but I'm throwing it out there. But I think the best way, that room, that will be the most used room in the probably the facility. Mm-hmm. And every time someone goes in, well, I don't know exactly, we'll have the name and then, a translation. And I think that would be the best. I think that would pay homage to Ho-Chunk people and get the most visibility, I think.
Absolutely. I think the United States tried to buy naming rights to about 20, 40 million acres of land and still hasn't paid for that much either. So, we can discuss it.
You look like you're about to raise your hand.
With all due respect, I feel like we're getting a bit off topic here.
I would just, my final comment would be, I think that, again, bigger picture, looking at how we honor. And, I think one thing I did today, too, was part of the ribbon cutting was to honor the Ho-Chunk, too, as an acknowledgement in a simple way. And there's just so much more that I think, what should justly be done. I think we could, we could easily go down that path and understand the history, but I don't know if that's the appropriate time to do that right now. But as also a Menominee member of Wisconsin, I thought it would be good to really consider what we are doing in regards to our naming practices. And oftentimes in all the communications that I've had, whether it's the Community Equity Committee or the Parks Committee, we forget that the history of Fitchburg starts before white settlers and farmers, and we often only kind of uplift those stories. And so I would love to see if we could get further down the path and understand the full history and honor in a way that is equitable and just in my, my mind as well. But I'll leave it at that. And Ryan, I appreciate your time and energy and the ongoing discussions that we've had over the last few years to even bring it this far.
Thank you.
Alder Herbst.
We'll have future parks coming. We're going to have more parks coming. And so I would say, have it teed up for the next park, whether it's this name or another one, Chris, and
so why not this one though?
The center here, there's a geographic location for people to find is my identifying it with the geographic location. I think that's valuable with this.
So, sorry, did I just cut somebody off? About turn to somebody speak. Okay, so just
one last thing, I'll just say that the other piece I think that we're short-sighted on is the amount of time and energy to build trust to even get the name to the table. And so if we're thinking further down the line, I would say that the amount of the history that Ryan just briefly touched on, I know it's not our responsibility to own all of that history, but I think there are small, tiny ways that we can change that outcome so we can continue to build trust between the city of Fitchburg and the Ho-Chunk. And I think that, we have to just think about that because we could, if we go back again in a future park, I don't know if we will get an answer that they'd want to, participate in that process. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Sue?
Back to just a little more about my remark about the internet search and finding the place and finding, etc. All the names like Wisconsin, etc., are phonetic spellings in the English language that wouldn't mirror, that don't mirror us using this word Hostahatchee. And so I'm not trying to insult anyone or any history. I just really think you actually get more by the gathering space, which is built as a community center, and I think it's going to be very well and actively used for that name to be explained to people who would have no idea with what, that could be determined down the road, murals or, what have you. So it's not to diminish anything. It's just to make, this is a community park and there's other things, and there are things that may happen in the future that are not yet determined. We know for sure we have a community center that will be widely used. So just a little more background on my comments. So what we learned last time that this starts a 60-day process. Just because we vote for one option or two options, it goes around for 60 days and comes back to us and back to the council. So it's not the last word either.
Which leads into what I was going to say is that this is a discussion, but the city has a pretty well spelled out process by which we have to choose a name, and this is not, we're not in the place to choose a name here tonight. So I think the conversation around this one as a potential option is very valuable. So the next step is for somebody to take the first step in that naming process, so it can be considered. And then if there are other options that other folks might want to propose as well, they're welcome to do that. In the absence of any other proposal, that's going to make our choice very easy. But I think that...
So how would I move that? I would move forward that I would like to propose this on that list.
I don't think you need to take action on it here in this meeting. There's a form and a written description that needs to be presented to the Parks Director, which we don't have, but to the city, somebody at the city. There's then, I'm just reading it here.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. And then there has to be a comment period, and then the Parks Commission votes on it. So I think, if I'm understanding it right, and Adam might be able to tell me where I'm wrong, is if you'd like to propose it to the city, and then it goes in comment period and comes back to us for for a vote, essentially.
Right. So I'll do that.
So how the policy reads is working in cooperation with the Parks, Recreation, Forestry Department, individuals, groups, or organizations interested in proposing names for a new or unnamed park area or facility must do so in writing. So that would come to me because I'm filling in, as I like to call it. The proposal shall be presented to the Director of Parks and Recreation for consideration by the Park, Recreation, and Forestry Commission. A written description and qualifications for the name being considered must be submitted at this time. This should include the location of the facility, any outstanding features of the site, detailed biographical information on an individual being recommended for a name, and a narrative explaining the justification for the naming of the facility. And I can send this to you, but I'm just going to keep reading until you tell me to stop. A public notice of naming a facility will be published by the City of Fitchburg in the city newsletter, we don't have one, to offer a chance for and request citizen comments. The Park Commission will act on each request made and will make a recommendation to the Common Council for action on the request following a 60-day public comment. So how I read that is that if someone were to submit that, or the Parks Commission says tonight, we want to name it whatever, not the hub, but whatever the name might be, we'd start that 60-day process once we publish that in the state journal. And then we'd also put that on our usual outlets of the website and social media.
So would we vote on options that were discussed tonight, and does that give you the information you need?
I'd love to have one to go forward with versus trying to make this a list of 3, 4, or 5 and then opening up for comments.
Just vote on each one as if they're a motion, and then when the meeting's over, there's one.
Well, if there's not one in consensus, because I'm planning on putting in Hastahochi.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a couple ways we can do it. If there's not consensus, I think you could then put both names in that notice, is that the Parks Commission is considering this name and this name. Here's the 60-day notice, and then here, as part of that notice, I have to put in there, when's it going to be voted on by the Park Commission. So I mean, in essence here, I don't want to say you are, because obviously you're not making that decision until it comes back 60 days from when that notice is published. So.
I thought last time we had this meeting, Sarah's comment about the commons sounded like that was kind of what we thought was a good idea. Yeah. So, I'm not quite sure how we got to this point. I mean, the amount of discussion and time we've spent on this, even the hub is beginning to sound good to me again. But I think it's
right.
I think it's submit something in writing. So we'll submit. You can submit what you want. We'll submit what Sarah had to say the last time, which I thought we had agreed on. And those are your two names, and go from there.
I wasn't here last time either, so I don't know what Sarah's.
Yeah, I mean, last time we were here, we kind of fell on, we bandied about a bunch of things, and I think we kind of thought Sarah's comment about commons made some Fitchburg Commons Park.
Yeah, I think we discussed a handful of options that had potential, but there was no official action or anything.
No, there was nothing official. Yeah. I'm just, it's another thing that came out that I thought there was some positive vibe around, so. Again, you have to submit this in writing.
If I would have been here, I would have brought this up because there was so much work that was done behind it. So I missed that meeting because I missed the schedule. So I apologize for that. But I would have brought that to the.
I mean, regardless, the process is it has to be done in writing. So somebody needs to submit in writing, and the same thing we'd have to do here. So whatever we say doesn't make any difference. It has to be submitted to you via writing.
No, I think if you make it on the record tonight, I think if you went on the record tonight and said, we want you to publish a notice for A, B, or C, or A and B. I think we can do it that way as well, too. I think this will be in the, obviously it's reflected on the video up there as well, too. So, I mean, it's a record of what is being recommended by the Parks Commission. And then we still go through that process as well, too. It does have a benefit of having that in writing. My only pause in that is this is the third meeting we've talked about it. And, we've correct. And now we've kind of, I don't want to say we're kind of pivoting off of, if now each individual Parks Commission member is putting in writing kind of this, what they want. I get a little leery with that of like we've had this open conversation. I think you can put the names out there now and we can put the notice in. I think there's been enough discussion and explanation of the intent of at least the two that I'm hearing. I think it's understood of what it means.
So by the two, it's the common or the Hostahachi? Hastahochi, sorry.
Yes.
So Fitchburg Commons and Park, did I hear that? But Sue, you said something different, didn't you? You said Traceway Drive, Community Center and Park, or words to that effect?
Yeah, Traceway Park and Community Center, because it's a park with a community center.
Right.
And Traceway tells us where it is. So I apologize that, I wasn't here. The meeting got changed to it.
Let's make this a little bit more clear and efficient. Does anybody have a motion for a name they would like to put on the table? This is a motion to suggest it as a name, not to approve it as a name.
I'd make a motion to suggest Traceway Commons.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of considering it as publishing it as an option being considered, please say aye.
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 Aye. The two ayes. All opposed?
Nay.
One opposed?
Opposed.
Two opposed. There are some abstentions.
I voted yes.
You voted yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was three.
So
3-2.
What was that vote? 3-2?
3-2.
And how many abstained?
So it passed.
One abstention.
I just want to make sure we get the minutes right of how that vote went.
One abstention, and since I did not have to break a tie, the chair did not vote.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other motions on names to be considered?
Motion to consider Hastahochi.
All those in favor of considering...
I'll second it.
Oh, and, I'm sorry, and a second from Sarah. All those in favor of considering Hastahochi, say aye.
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 Two. Opposed?
Nay.
No.
Opposed.
Nay.
So with that, I can still submit it.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean, anybody can submit a name they want as part of the process, yes.
And it'll come right back in the same place.
Thank you.
So how did that vote go? I don't know what the result was.
The motion failed. 2-4.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, then I would like to propose a motion to name the park Traceway Park and Community Center.
Second that motion.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
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 5 in favor. Opposed? None opposed. Any others?
Can I just repeat that one again? Traceway Park and Community Center is what you said? Okay, thank you.
Okay. I don't think we have any other names being considered, so I think we can move on and then look forward to some more lively discussion when all three of these are back in front of us in however many days.
So what I'll do is we'll publish a notice here and then count the 60 days, and that probably puts us into December, January is my guess, but we'll get that going.
Okay, thank you. All right, communication items. Item number 5. Anything to communicate? I don't see any.
Just Parks Manager position. We've got some phone screens tomorrow, and then we have some in-person interviews coming up after that. So moving forward with the Parks Manager, so at some point you will not see me here.
All right, we'll be very sad about that day.
My wife might be happy, but yes.
All right, we've received the staff reports and updates. Do we have any questions on the reports, updates? None. All right, future agenda items. There will be a park inventory update on the future agenda. And
someday.
At some point, yeah. And announcements, our next meeting is November 6th. With that, we can adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Motion.
Sue and Sam with the first and the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned.